You're listening to the Mark Bradford Alchemy for Life podcast.
Moving your body functionally from A to B. Alrighty, I am here with Robbin Castillo. Hi, Robbin.
Hi, Mark.
It's so nice to speak with you. And as I normally start most podcasts with interviewing someone and having a conversation, I say, tell us who you are and what you do. So if you'd like to do that, that would be wonderful.
Okay. Well, who am I? That's a tough question.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out who I am. I can tell you my name, but you already told the audience my name. So yeah, I just think I'm like a consciousness in this body and experiencing this life here on Earth. And what do I do? I like to explore this connection, and I love to share the insights I get through my life experiences. And during my days, I primarily guide people, coach people to get in better shape and to share some knowledge about consciousness, basically. Yeah, it sounds maybe a bit vague, but it's actually pretty a sober practice, if that's the right pronunciation. I just train with people to get them in good shape, so I really check how is their posture, and I try to link it with I work a lot on like personal level with clients, and mostly they come to me because they want to have like better physical structure, body.
Mm-hmm.
And then soon enough, the conversations get deeper and deeper, and we focus more on the consciousness side of life, basically.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that all makes sense, and I think it is I think it is all connected, and it's certainly hard to work on the body and ignore the spirit, right?
Yes.
And just like it's hard to raise someone's spirit if they're eating terrible food and they're not exercising.
Yes, it's all linked together.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. That's what I believe too.
And
It's
I think that. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's like the body is like some kind of a reflection of your being.
Yes.
On some level. So taking care of the body is also reflection how you take care of yourself.
I think that's absolutely correct. And I think that's probably also why you call yourself a holistic personal trainer, because that's probably the only true way to train someone is to sort of look at the whole. And like I said, you know, there are people who go to a gym and say, I'm going to get a personal trainer, and the personal trainer just yells at them and tells them to do certain exercises better and better. But unless you really ask, they're not going to talk to you about your diet or anything else.
No, that's true. Yeah, well, most personal trainers is just diet and exercises, pretty basic. But for me, that's too superficial. I don't just want to learn somebody to do a push-up, because last week I was thinking like, what is the highest form of coaching? What is the best way how I can guide someone? What's the best possible advice that I can give to someone? And yes, that's not how to learn to do a pull-up. No. So yeah, I'm trying to make the switch more and more. And yes, holistic is a good label. It's more like complete. You work with the whole being instead of just the physical. But now I'm also playing with the term ascension coach. So I'm trying to find my way into that. But yes, you're absolutely right. Like, it's more than just doing some physical repetitions. It's more than that. And a lot of these things, a lot of people who go to the gym, they just do it for like the image. They try to create the image, the physical image, and it's not really about the longevity, the durability of the body. So I think the shit is coming, because there's now like a big fitness boom here in the Netherlands, for sure. Like, we have many gyms, like cheap gyms, and everybody can go to the gym. But people, I think they do more damage than they do good for the body, because they like, it's like they're destroying themselves. Yeah, well.
I think I think I've made that observation as well, because there are people who eat all of that pre-workout stuff, and
Oh
they
yes.
take in all of that terrible protein powder that has 10-syllable words in it, and things that you would never eat, and then they have a lot of caffeine, and then their little heart beats really fast, and then they go and they work out and kill themselves,
Yes.
and then the rest of their life the rest of their day they're not physical because they got their workout in, instead of just being physical in their life also, and thinking about their core, and like you said, posture, and that having a good posture and thinking sort of like from the core outward, instead of just schlumping around and while you being hunched over and all that stuff. So I do think that I think you're right. I haven't really heard anyone say that gyms are destroying people, who are destroying themselves, but I can't argue with that. I think that's probably very true, because I'm not saying gyms are bad, and just like you're not saying gyms are bad, you're just saying that people are using it as sort of a quick fix, and then they forget about everything else.
Yeah, that's beautiful said. I couldn't say it better. Yes, because yeah, you see the big gyms and a lot of big devices, and you just sit on it and just make one movement, and then you build a particular movement which you maybe would never really use in your daily life. So you build this structure, this body, but the functionality goes away, the mobility goes away. You, well, there are many people go with different reasons to the gym, but like what you're also observing, the majority of the people, they're just doing it for the image. And yes, they think if the image is good, then the whole structure is good. But no, that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the case, and that's basically pretty sad, because yeah, there's just not enough awareness. If you look if you look like old, maybe Egyptian, not really, but maybe the Greek statues, and you see the man with like great physique, those times,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't have all these wild, crazy devices.
Right, exactly.
So it's also I try to go back to the basics a lot. So just work a lot with your body weight. My philosophy is a bit like this: you should be able to move your body functionally from point A to B. You must be able to move objects from point A to B, and then you have to be, well, that's actually it. If you Because moving your body from point A to B, you can have different routes. Maybe you have to climb over things, maybe you have to crawl underneath something. Well, if you look at these movements, then you have a lot of muscles you use in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
different ways, like how your body is developed to do these movements. Your body is not developed to just sit on a machine and just do one movement. It's just basically a big waste of time, where you can do so much beautiful, better things with your body in the same amount of time than just sitting on a machine and doing 10 reps.
Boy, that is so. I think that is so true. It's and your sentence, "You should just be able to move your body functionally from A to B," is deceptively simple, because there's so much to that for people. There are people that say, "Oh, I'm going to go to the gym and work out," but if you said, "Well, all I want you to do is walk up this hill or climb up this tree," not climb a tree, but move, do something where you have to move your arms to get over an obstacle and so forth, and they couldn't do that, but they would go to the gym, because like you said, they're going to sit on a chair or sit or stand or do something and focus. They're going to isolate their muscles while
Yes.
nothing else needs to be held up, and that's not how we get to the kitchen, to the garage, to the walk in the park
Mm.
and things. And I think that's very true. And it's so funny. I was meeting someone for coffee um, uh, months ago, and I had to I had to unplug my laptop. So I just popped down, I squatted down really quick, grabbed my stuff, and popped right back up. And he said, "Oh," and he looked at me like
Mm.
I was a yoga master. And I said, What did I do?" And he said, "Oh, look at you." And I thought,
Yeah,
well, all I did was just squat down quickly and grab some. Like, you should be able to do that. It shouldn't be amazing.
that's very true. And if you look at society, like if you go, you can basically survive and become old just by laying, sitting, and standing.
Hmm.
If you go to the supermarket, where the most expensive products are like eyesight height, you know.
Hmm.
All the cheap products are down low, you know. So if you're like,
That's true.
if you have to squat or if you have to go down to get the cheaper products, and people say, never mind, or maybe have to reach higher, you know. They cannot reach higher, they cannot lift the arm. Everything's on like make super comfortable, and yeah, this comfort zone, you know, staying too long in this comfort zone is gonna do some damage because you get
Mhm.
weaker, basically.
Right.
You get weaker.
Exactly. And I think that's one of I've been self-employed for a very long time, and I have a home office, which is the majority of the time I spend is in my home office. And I have the luxury of deciding that I now want to work from my knees instead of sitting on my chair, or I want to
Mm,
get up and walk around or do something and break it up by actually walking around, or, I can break up my
mm,
work in many ways that people in an office cannot. And it's unfortunate. But
yes.
speaking of amazing, the videos that you've posted, the pictures and the other things that you do is just, I just find
Yeah.
amazing. And Instagram is made up of influencers and people who, and I think as you said it before too, that people just, they just want a certain look. And it's just
Mm,
people who put on a certain kind of clothing and filters and just take pictures versus what you do. I see some of the exercises and movements that you do that are, I almost feel like you do them because you're like, well, can I do it this way? Maybe I'll just try it this way. Let's see if I can do it this way just to see if I can do it. And I think there was a section of pull-ups that you did that were from this
mm.
bizarre angle that it's just so fun to watch the human body move in that way. It's just such a neat thing.
Oh well, thank you. Yeah, well, I have like a hate and love relationship with Instagram. Sometimes I think like I delete it all. You know, what do I do it for? But yes, as you said, like I don't have like never one workout is the same. I always like to be creative with my workouts. I actually started as a breakdancer, a b-boy, when I was a small kid because
Really
breakdancing was like the only like sport where I can be completely free and do whatever I want.
and creative.
Be super creative, yeah. Just create my own moves and then go to battles or showcases and then showcase my move against opponents or for audience. And yeah, just that was also my let out for because you know in school I could never find my way, and so in the evening the breakdance practice was really something for me to look out to. And yes, when I was getting a bit older, around 22, I was in the break scene for like 12 years and winning
Oh,
battles and taking it pretty serious. But then I wanted to go, then I start to find some more interest in the spiritual life, let's say, and also about the yoga. So I started to go really deep into the yoga, and I became vegan that time. I'm not vegan anymore, but that time I became vegan and I did a lot of yoga and I was traveling to India and living in the monasteries and you know just being there. And then I came back and I was like super flexible. I still had the creativity, but I was pretty weak because I wasn't aware of protein intake. So my muscles got weaker and weaker, I got more
mm,
flexible. And then I was thinking, okay, what is like the best way to build strength? Because I got the flexibility, I got mobility, I got the creativity, but I also need the strength component to make it more complete. Okay, then I came to calisthenics, like building strength with your body weight, like the pull-ups and the push-ups, and just like the ancient Romans and the Greek people train, you know, just with your own body weight. And in order to create like strength, overall strength in whole your body, you have to be pretty creative to hit muscles in different angles and to really develop like the muscle as a whole. So I was thinking like, okay, how can I develop this muscle like as complete as possible? This should mean that I should be able to apply pressure and resistance in many different angles
mm-hmm.
and with many different lengths. So that's just what I was experimenting with. Like, how can I be developing my body the best as possible? So yeah, I was just creating, and some things work, some things didn't work, but yeah, the creative part is huge for me. I cannot go to the park and just get a sheet and do 10 times this, 10 times that. No, it's too boring for me. I like to be creative, and yeah, that's also how I can maintain the practice because of the creative aspect of it all.
I think that as part of being a balanced person, I think the logic and the creativity kind of have to find a happy medium. And this is something
Mm,
that I have, you know,
mm,
I've said this in many interviews because I keep finding people that I keep discovering are sort of what I call dual brained, where they have a creative side and they have a logic side. You clearly have a logic side if you're able to accomplish what you've accomplished. You obviously have systems and methods. You
mm,
can't start a coaching practice if you don't have a plan. You
mm,
clearly have all that. So you have the logic side, but you also have the creative side because you keep challenging yourself and you say, look, I'm not going to run back and forth 50 times and I'm going to do that again tomorrow and again tomorrow. Just like I'm sure you don't tell your coachees that, or they're called coachees, but I think that's silly. You know, the people you
yeah,
coach,
yeah, yeah, yes.
uh,
Mm,
your students, I guess we could call them. You don't tell them, okay, I want you to do this 100 times and I'll see you next week. You obviously have to have some sort of creativity. And I do that same thing. I have, technical aptitude on certain things. Other logistical things I love, but I love being creative and I love when they work together. And I think
mm,
with what you do, you've sort of found a way to make both of your brains happy. You get
mm,
to be creative, you get to be creative with individuals, and you also get to sort of follow a method and a system as well, which I think is really important.
mm. Nice, nicely said. I never thought about it like that. It's cool.
And you all, thank you. And then you also mentioned yoga and going to India and actually living in a monastery. So,
Mm.
how long ago did you start focusing on yoga?
Well, I started actually when I was this already 9 years ago. I was, living in the Netherlands, Western country, and I didn't find a lot of happiness in this system and its culture. Let's say I was like chasing the wrong things
Hmm.
to find happiness, and then I came to a documentary about some guy living in the Himalayas, and he just
Ah,
um, yeah,
interesting.
he just turned everything away, his family, his job, and he was just traveling in search of God, the connection with God. And I saw just joy in his eyes and happiness, and I was thinking like, hey, there is something here. There is something here. And then I start to shift my idols instead of looking at the superstars. I was looking to the prophets, and I was thinking, hey, these prophets are interesting individuals because they really want the best for me. They have something to say. And these prophets were like rebels themselves too. They were like born in some kind of religion, and they were thinking, hey, this is not it. I will try and find my own way and find the truth myself. Because, like, yeah, Jesus was born as a Jew, Buddha was born as a Hindu. Um, yeah, you can keep on going. Like all these prophets, they were born in a time where they were thinking and feeling like, hey, something is missing. I have to find my own way, find the answers myself. And this motivated me to leave the Netherlands and just go traveling basically. And I first went to Ethiopia for like almost 3 months. And yeah, then to Egypt and then to Israel and then home for 3 months and then Nepal and India. So I basically went to all these ancient countries where there's a lot of wisdom and a lot of wise people. So I just basically went traveling to those sites and just have a lot of conversations with people and really living a basic life, just in hostels or cheap rooms and never drank alcohol or went to the clubs, just basically read my scriptures and do my practice and talk to this and talk to that person and just try to get some answers basically. And yeah, that 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 urge or that craving for wisdom has never stopped since then. So
Oh.
I came back to the Netherlands, and then people asked me, "Hey, what did you learn? Can you teach us also?" I was okay. Then I started to make some kind of workout, like combination of strength training, yoga, and meditation, and then start to go a little bit. And then another country in Holland, Rotterdam. Maybe you heard about it,
Hmm.
Rotterdam.
Hmm.
I was people invited me more and more in Rotterdam, and I was thinking, hey, maybe in Rotterdam there's more for me. And then I went to Rotterdam. I moved over there. I went to live by a friend, and then I jumped into the theater world. I was doing theater shows, like traveling throughout Europe, and it was like one show about the Agoris. These are like very extreme monks living in India. They live in the cemetery grounds, and they eating the dead bodies like this very extreme.
Oh my.
Yes, yes. They say there's no taboo. Everything is made from source, so there's no everything is matter at the end of the day. So they have no taboo of no fear of nothing.
Wow.
Well, yes, and then again I was traveling to more countries. I also went to Mexico, and yes, these ancient civilizations and this knowledge always
Mm,
intrigued me. And eventually I tried to find some knowledge where I can identify myself with and then make it my own.
perfect.
So this journeys keep going. So yeah, this, yes,
I I think that's in a nutshell what everyone hopefully is doing is continuing to learn, continuing to explore, and finding what part of that is meaningful for themselves, so they
yes,
can take what they can of it. And I think a lot of people just simply don't expose themselves to enough things like that. They get stuck in this very thin path without looking to the left or looking to the right, where they may see something really wonderful. And I think curiosity plays such a huge part of it. And when we talk about lifelong learners, well, everyone should be learning. We're all learning every day, no matter who we are or what we're doing or what our status is in our society. We should always be learning, and we can be learning from 360 degrees around us.
yes. But yeah, the main problem I think is like the fear of losing oneself. Because yeah, because if you maybe you find a different perspective, and that change maybe your whole view of life. So yes, who will I be with this new view? I don't know. Maybe this fear thinking, right? So it's a lot
Well,
of
that's
fear. Yes,
yeah. Oh, sorry. No, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I think that's such an important point uh, of people actually being afraid to change and lose who they are. So you're saying that's what you deal with your clients, or that's also what you've dealt with yourself, or both?
I think both, and I think I also see it
Hmm.
a lot in the world around. I see a lot of people just scared to really challenge their own core beliefs because
Oh,
yes, they
absolutely.
built they built the whole life around that. Maybe the friends, the family, all these things built because people they share some same beliefs, and if they change that, then maybe they get a lot of resistance, and then the fear thinking comes in. I think it's a lot to do with like the ego. The ego likes to know um, what it is.
Hmm.
So it's afraid to change because the comfort zone is gives
Right.
security. It gives security.
Right.
You cannot
Right.
blame them. But if you
Right.
want to grow on a soul level, if you want to expand, if you want to gain wisdom, if you want to really evolve as a being, you have to be willing to let that part of yourself die. Basically, it sounds maybe harsh, but it's actually a beautiful thing. To
Hmm.
rediscover yourself again and again and again and again.
I think that's so true, and I don't think I've heard it said quite that way, because everyone talks about comfort zone. In fact, they talk about it so much that it just loses meaning. I mean, everyone says we need to move you out of your comfort zone this, comfort zone
Mm.
that. And then people sort of forget what that really is. But part of that, like you said, is the security of thinking, well, I'm right. I can't be wrong on that. But the fact is that, like you said, with your ego, you may find you're wrong. And I think wrong is a little bit black and white. Like you
Mm.
may find you need to adjust something and say, well, like you did, like you're a great example of where you studied yoga and then you were a vegan, but you're no longer a vegan because you learned things about protein. And you also found that what you were experiencing with yoga, you still wanted to add strength to that. And so you didn't just say, I'm just going to do this one thing and I'm done. You kept looking and you kept bending. And I think that's really important.
Yes, and it was also not easy to do because I
No.
was on this vegan journey for quite a while, and I was completely convinced this is the way, and I was going even more extreme towards the fruitarian lifestyle. I was like 6 months only on fruits for a time,
Oh my.
and I was thinking, this. I was thinking, looking at nature, and I was thinking like, okay, if I want the most peaceful diet there is, I should just be able to eat only fruits because if I eat, for example, broccoli, then I have to kill the whole vegetable. And the tree, they give so much fruit every year. So yes, if we take a few fruits, I even help the tree because I can help place the seed on a different soil. So actually, I'm doing the whole system a favor. So fruit is
Mm-hmm.
like the only the perfect diet, the perfect peaceful diet. But yes, I start to get complications and I start to get weaker, etc., etc. So then I was thinking, okay, so sustaining only on fruit is not gonna work for me, for the body I got. So then I start to also eat the seeds, the seeds of the fruits. So the seeds contain fats, the seeds contain some protein. So I was basically eating fruits and part of the fruits, like the seeds and nuts and these things. So I get more protein in, I get more fiber in, but I couldn't digest it very well, so much of the
Mm-hmm.
seeds and nuts every
Mm-hmm.
day. So I was thinking, this is also not a solution. Interesting, because
Right.
now maybe I have to change my convictions about diet, and I was also promoting this diet. So I was like, okay, who am I? If I now change, that's pretty scary, but I have to do it. And then when I was only thinking about like fish, like fat fish, like mackerel or like salmon, my I start to my teeth start to water. I don't know how to say it, but you get like the saliva start to
Yes.
run in my mouth.
Yeah. Yes. Your
Yeah,
mouth waters. Exactly. Yes.
and that started happening when I was only thinking about it. So I was really thinking like, oh, so my body is craving for this fish. Okay, why does it crave for this fish? I had
Mm-hmm.
some skin problems, so I was thinking, it's the omega 3s. The omega 3 is my body craving for, and my body don't know another way to get omega 3 except from getting it from this fatty fish. So I was thinking, let's find like a plant-based substitute for this omega 3. So I was finding like algae oil and stuff, and but no, it still didn't work. And then I was thinking like, okay, now just have to respect my body and just make the step and just digest the fish. Okay, so if I want to start eating animal products again, I have to make sure I have to find like a very um, a very good source, right? Where these animals have a respectful life, where the animals eat like good organic food, so I get the best possible product with the most love, most respect. Then I would indulge in it. So I will start searching for this kind of foods, and I start to notice that my health went up, my energy levels went up, the little aches in my joints went away, my skin started to heal. So yeah, it was really difficult because in a lot of cultures and stuff, they of a lot of religions, they promote veganism as the only way if you really want to be a spiritual uh, person. So I had to really challenge that, and yes, and you develop these different perspectives if you just really go into it and really learn from it from first-hand life experiences. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's still tough sometimes to eat animal products, but I start to I really connect with the animal being and really be thankful that the body is become a part of my body, that I can do my work better. So the animal has a higher. Um, I respect the animal that's being sacrificed for me to do my work, basically.
Hmm.
And in that way, yes, I can accept this diet.
Well, I think that's wonderful, and you use the word perspective, and I think that's so important. Just like, the word mindfulness is used all the time. Again, where so much
Yeah,
that people sort of forgot what it really means and how important it is. And I think what you just discussed is a perfect demonstration of having perspective, because if you're right in the middle of being a vegan, you're never going to really see much outside of that because you're a vegan. You're done.
mm,
And you took yourself outside of that and sort of looked at it from another perspective and started questioning things, because you changed your perspective by changing your perspective. You actually used a different perspective to decide that. And had you not done that, you would have just accepted the consequences and said, well, this is what I committed to. I'm done. And I think people do that in many aspects of life, where they don't really take a breath and go, is this really what I want? Or is there something more? Or is there something different? And can I benefit from looking in other directions and maybe, as they say, thinking outside of the box? And I think in a lot of the things you've been describing, you keep going back outside of your box and looking in and saying, what else is there? Or is there something I can improve? Or is there something I'm missing? And I think people are missing out on a lot. So it's really interesting and neat to hear that you sort of did that so many times.
yeah, that's the thing with the comfort again. Eh? Like,
Right.
okay, you find something, okay, it works. Okay, right, it works, and I was promoting it this the way because it works. I've been through it, and now I found it. But everything is due to is everything is changing all the time. So yes, for me it worked for a certain amount of time, but the illusion the illusion I had to learn. I don't say it well. Let's say it differently. Um, I was on this vegan diet. I thought it was the way, and then it changed. So I had to learn that everything is changing all the time. So accepting that, accepting that, okay, this works now. Maybe it works for 10 years, maybe it works for 5 years. Just keep on, as you said it, keep on observing yourself, reflecting on yourself, and see if it still works. If not, just change it. It's perfectly
Mm-hmm.
fine. Don't be too attached to your convictions. This is what I had to learn. That I don't be too attached to my convictions all the time. I'd be able to just experience it and just let it go, just let it die. Just be able to die. That's it. To let everything go in love for progress.
Mm-hmm. I think that's similar to just saying also that you shouldn't have a conviction just for the sake of having a conviction. You should
Mm,
actually be able to say, does it serve me? Is it in line? Can I ask for more or something different? And then maybe, as you said, and then just sort of let it die and pull away from it. And
yeah.
it's interesting that one of the hardest things to do in life is to let go.
Yes.
You think the hardest thing is to climb that hill. The hardest thing is to commit to something. The hardest thing sometimes is to let a thing go. And it's interesting. It takes strength to do that, but we don't think of it in that way.
Yeah. I think I make this phrase like, if it don't flow, let it go.
Right.
That's it. If you just notice the flow isn't there anymore, okay, that's something you have to let go.
Hmm.
What is it? What is it? Well, you can figure it out. Just reflect and just sit silence and just observe, and then the answer will become quick to you. But yeah, then you have to have the courage to follow that insight.
Right. That comes next. And you mentioned the answer coming quick. So that sort of gets us back onto meditation. And so
Hmm.
what are your thoughts on that, about how often and when and so forth?
Um, yeah, you also said mindfulness before and meditation.
Hmm.
Um, Actually, your whole life can become a meditation. So, meditation, mindfulness for me is just being in the moment, being in the moment. So, you take some time to plan some steps, and you spend time being in the moment. Spending time being in the moment, you can do different things. Um, if you just say like, "Hey, I have free time now. I want to be in the moment," and you're just gonna sit in a nice, quiet space, close your eyes. You're gonna focus on your breath. You're gonna focus on visualizing beautiful, possible futures, or you're gonna share some love to the earth, or whatever it is. Meditation has so many different aspects to it, but I think it's important to really find the silence within every now and then. And you can systematically do it like every morning, or before you go to sleep, or you can do it during the day if you have to wait on something, or maybe you have to wait on a bus, for example, or just standing in the line of the grocery store. There are more ways where you can just practice this. If you practice the stillness in your meditation, you can apply it very easy in your daily life.
Hmm.
And yes, so you can do it how many times you want. If you're not familiar with it, just start to get familiar with the observing part of yourself, because not to my surprise, not many people are aware of the observing part of themselves. When they have certain emotions or certain feelings, they mostly feel they have two options: or give in to it, or suppress it. And when you suppress it for a long time, eventually you will give into it, because you cannot hold anymore. And if you can give into it all the time,
Hmm.
you may not have control over it, because you
Hmm.
just let it take you over all the time. And the third option you have is just observe it. Just whatever the feeling or the sensation is, or the thoughts you have, just learn to look at it from like a distance. Be completely aware of it, but just only observe it. So you don't suppress it, you don't give into it, you just let it be, but you don't let it take you over. You just look at it from a distance. And then a beautiful thing is happening, because let's say we talk about um, a feeling of revenge or a feeling of anger, right? If we give into this feeling of anger, we can feed it with our thoughts, with our thinking. So
Hmm.
this person did this to us. Yeah, because of that, how could he make the choice? And blah 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 blah. You can feed that feeling. So the feeling become more and more and more and more and more, and eventually the feeling is so intense you're gonna translate it in physical movements, and you're gonna maybe be aggressive with your hands or shouting or whatever. Or when you suppress it, you say like, don't give into it, and you keep boiling it inside of you. You keep suppressing it, and maybe you put it away. You find some distraction. You whatever distraction it might be, and the next day somebody triggers that emotion again, and then you cannot suppress it anymore. You don't have to self control to find distraction, and then boom, you give into it, and you're gonna showcase that emotion physically, also by shouting or by fighting or whatever.
Hmm.
But if you just learn to observe this feeling, so you don't feed it with your thoughts, you just be completely aware of this feeling. Where is it exactly located in my body? Just try to exactly find the location of that feeling. Just put all your focus, all your attention on observing that really weird, annoying, irritated feeling. And don't feed it with your thoughts. Don't feed it, just observe it. And eventually you will see that it will just wither away, because you actually starve it. You starve it because you don't feed it with your thoughts, and then it goes away. So then you give it respect, you give it your attention, but you don't let it take you over. And you can do this with many different emotions. And you can learn this basically to learn the art of observation. And observation, you can just sit, relax in your corner, and just observe your body. Like if I tell you now, just don't move your left hand, but just focus on your left hand. Just feel your left hand as clear as possible. Okay, within a few seconds, you're gonna feel some tingling sensations. Maybe you feel the blood flow in your hand, maybe you feel your heartbeat in your hand, but you're gonna feel that your hand is there. Just focus on your left hand. It's a very subtle feeling.
I'm remaining quiet so that I don't interrupt your
Yes,
your
yes.
instructions to people.
No, but you try it.
No, I was doing exactly as you said, and I'm imagining that the audience is at this time
Yes.
doing the same thing. So I didn't want to interrupt you, but
Okay,
I,
but
I
did you feel something in your hand?
oh yeah, so I'm an interesting subject because I do exactly this all the time. I'm
Okay.
I am I'm a student of observation and perception, and so
Ah.
yeah, so I have I've done that to I've actually affected my own heartbeat, and so I've learned not to focus too much on certain areas. Um,
Mm.
so I'm very aware of it. So I didn't want to say anything, but
Oh, it's my mistake. I had to ask you
oh
prior.
no, not your mistake at all. No, you're just I think that's fascinating. I think everyone else but me was doing that and probably still is. And I don't want to interrupt you any further, but I think it's a great thing for people to change their focus because there are people who go through life with tunnel vision and they don't
Mm.
even focus on even a pain or why they have a pain or why something's creaking in their body or something is a little
Mm.
sore. I think your body's always talking to you.
Mm.
And you're right. It's just like people who overly focus on their stomach and then they say, oh, I have an upset stomach. Well, maybe you should shift your focus away from it in this case,
Mm.
or shift it towards something else. I think what you're saying is absolutely valuable, and that's exactly what happens is because we a perfect example of that is if you've ever driven a stick shift car versus a manual car versus automatic.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you if you drive a manual car for a long time, both of your legs are doing something. But then if you switch to an automatic, your left leg just sits there. And
Mm.
I found that when I switched from a manual car a long time ago when I was younger, and I loved driving a manual car, it was so fun, that my leg kept falling asleep because I
Oh.
wasn't used to moving it anymore. So it would just be crammed there. So then I eventually learned how to keep moving my left leg around a little bit so that it wouldn't fall asleep. But you don't think of that when you're doing a manual car because that leg is actually busy doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I'm sure you would say, if you have if you're putting someone through some sort of movement or exercise, you may say, well, even though you're doing a leg exercise, how is your posture? How are your arms and things like that?
Yeah, it's complete. The complete being, the complete physical structure has to be all has to be working together.
Hmm.
But you also say something interesting about the stomach pain because pain is also an interesting subject. Pain, the sensation, the uncomfortable sensation, and it's like we're not respecting our bodies so much anymore. So we get like painkillers so easily, and
Yes.
just try to disconnect from the body actually more and more. And but actually, the body is like the physical portal to this earth. You experience this world through your body,
Hmm.
through your senses. So there has to come a big shift. There's some shift happening. People are getting more there's this movement going on where people become more conscious
Hmm.
about how they use the body. Wim Hof is maybe you heard about Wim Hof, the Dutch
Uh,
Iceman.
no, I have not.
It's like he has like world records on his name, like climbing the Kilimanjaro in his shorts and the longest time sitting in ice baths. Um, He's like pretty famous now in America. He trained Oprah, and all these people, and he's like a breathing coach.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's Wim Hof, right?
wi-
Wimhof. So his first.
yes,
Okay, perfect. I will, in the article that is included with this podcast, I'll make sure to have a link to him as well.
yeah, he's doing great things. They all even inject him with a bacteria, yeah, to see if he gets sick, and he could just raise his immune system by just breathing, by just the breathing techniques.
Wow.
And yes, if you look at like the Tibetan, they also have a lot of these techniques
Mm-hmm.
how to rise up your metabolism of your body. So there are many, and maybe you heard about Joe Dispenza. He's like a American guy who had like an accident and he broke his whole back, and the doctors advised him to put like all the iron, the casket in his back to make him able to use his spine again. But he didn't want to do that. He healed his spine by meditation and by really connecting with the body. He was um, well, there are stories, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
mothers where the child is under the car and the mother just lift the car up,
Mm-hmm.
to free the child.
Mm-hmm.
They say we only use like 60, 70% of our muscles, but we can use 100%. But our body don't allow us to use so much force because then we may have a higher risk of getting injured.
Right. Right. We have self-preservation that's in play at all times, right? Which some people learn to turn off more than others.
Yeah. So there is this very wise consciousness of the human body that wants to keep on living. So he wants to procreate, and
Mm-hmm.
make sure the DNA keeps on living. Uh,
Right.
there's this, yes, and we are like we observe, we experience it through a soul level. So it's like the soul and the body coming together. Like this body is like the vehicle we have to experience this beautiful life on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important to respect that because actually the human body is like a extension of Mother Earth. If you look at the Earth, like the body is made out of elements of the Earth. We actually a part. Our body is a part of the whole earthly ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
so if we see that, hey, our body is just a little part of Earth basically, and we have it, we can enjoy life better here if our body is in like perfect state, because then we can enjoy the pleasures that Earth has to give us. So that means if we want to take good care of ourselves, we also have to take good care of our mother of the body, that is Mother Earth, just the Earth. Just if this insight grows, you want to be you don't you only want to eat organic food, because as you see how they spray the earth and they destroy the soil, there's no life again in the soil. You know, you're destroying the earth, and they're drilling for oil, all the resources, like raping the earth basically. We're like raping the earth, but then we see like, hey, we actually raping our mother, and that is a very extreme thought. But yeah, this consciousness is like growing more and more if we want to really get the best out of this life.
Right. I'm very glad you're a part of that, and you're a driving force for not just yourself but for others. And speaking of that, I promised that I would not take more than an hour of your time, and I can't believe how fast the time has gone between the
Ah,
two of us. I have in the article, I have connections to both your Instagram and your webpage.
okay.
And so, and we can speak offline about any other links you want in there. But since you have my attention and the audience's attention, is there any other shout outs or anything you wanted to say before we close things down?
Well, my website is in Dutch. My Instagram, I'm yeah, on and off. But if there are like people listening to this podcast and they're interested to work with me, then they can just send me an email through the website or through my Instagram, and I provide coaching online, different aspects. It can be just working on the physical, but can also translate to more in-depth conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, if people are interested, then I'd be very happy to share. And shout outs, well, yes, shout out to you, you know, shout out to you because this is how this came together is also pretty magical, and this also proves again that the
Yes.
most beautiful things come unexpected, and that
Yes.
and that one thing always leads to another, and you
Yes.
don't know where it leads to, but if it just feels right, then it's always worth to just go flow with it, to go into it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. I think it was pretty amazing. And for those people who go to your site, which I'll have a link on, they can simply right click and tell Google to translate it, and it'll actually translate it into
Ah,
English or whatever their
yes,
language.
of
So
course, of
that's
course.
so I was able to read it that way and read up a little bit. So yes, it was really kind of fun how we connected, and I really enjoyed that. And it's really interesting too that this was the very first time I talked with you. It's not like we talked offline back and forth and planned what we were going to discuss. It's so nice to just sort of hear someone for the first time and allow them to speak about, you know, what they've learned and their passion and all that stuff. And it's just so interesting to hear from you and your experiences. I mean, because you're not someone who's just saying, here's my opinion. You're someone
Mhm.
who's saying, well, I did this and then I put myself through that and I learned this and I took a turn here. So that's really wonderful. So it's so nice to be able to spend an hour with you and talk with you.
Well, I'm living a pretty lonely life. I feel like I don't have many people who I can really share, uh, who I really feel like they understand what I'm saying, because I'm not living the average type of life, right? And I feel with you, I feel like you really we vibrating on the same level, and we have very flowing, nice conversation. And I'm thankful that I'll be
It's so
able to
nice.
share my story, and
Thank you.
that you ask like beautiful questions and share your perspective. So I really enjoyed this time.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so glad you enjoyed yourself, and thank you so much. That's such a high compliment coming from you. So, I will tell you to take care, and I hope to talk to you soon. And thank you again so much for your time.
Very welcome. Very welcome.
Bye bye. Hey there, thanks for listening. I always enjoy your feedback. The prequel to the Sword and the Sunflower duet, called Upside Down, is now available. The Sword and the Sunflower is available as Kindle, paperback, and audiobook, with the other two, Amira and Upside Down, being available as Kindle and paperback. Well, actually, all three books are now available in hardcover.